Welcome.
Welcome to the Everything Podcast, and in this episode I'll be recapping Dark Gallifrey, The War Master Part 2, which was released in August 2024, and I'm recording this episode on the 9th of March 2025. But, not back to this episode, that's what I say at the end. Without further ado, here is my recap of Dark Gallifrey, The War Master Part 2. Oh, and before I actually get to it, please go and check Part 1. That recap's already out when you're seeing this, not when I'm recording though. Please go and check that out because it kind of makes this episode make a lot more sense. So without further ado, here's my recap of Dark Gallifrey, The War Master Part 2. We start off with the previous recap and the theme tune. Bernice communicates with her cat. Bernice reveals that some of her cats are holograms. Captain John reveals he is Bernice's biggest fan. Captain John explains why he doesn't answer questions in lectures. Captain John gives Bernice some flowers. Captain John mentions the university. Captain John convinces Bernice to purchase a dessert. Bernice mentions Mars. Bernice discusses Captain John with the Provost. The Provost is the War Master. The Provost mentions Bernice's travels with the Doctor. Bernice introduces her cats to Captain John. Captain John asks Bernice some questions. Bernice mentions one of her adventures. Captain John reveals what he wants to do with Bernice. The Provost notices Bernice's interactions with Captain John. Captain John reads a book centered around Bernice. Captain John wants to discover who the real Bernice is. Bernice apologises. Captain John mentions Dark Gallifrey. The Provost expresses his feelings about Bernice's relationship with Captain John. Bernice believes Captain John is harmless. The Provost believes nothing can be lost. Captain John mentions Time Lords. Captain John believes he knows the location of Dark Gallifrey. Bernice is nearly speechless at Captain John's board on Dark Gallifrey. Captain John mentions Alpha Centauri. Bernice fills in the Provost. The Provost believes that Captain John is crazy. Bernice reveals what Dark Gallifrey is. Bernice mentions the Doctor. The Provost mentions the Time Lords. The Provost and Captain John meet each other. Captain John and the War Master threaten and attack each other. The War Master mentions Darkanium. Captain John mentions his personal force field. The War Master threatens Captain John. The War Master causes Captain John pain whilst removing Captain John's personal force field. Captain John knows who the War Master is. The War Master and Captain John mention Dark Gallifrey. Captain John proposes the idea of him and the War Master forming an alliance. Bernice thanks Captain John for saving the War Master. Captain John introduces Bernice to her complete works. Captain John informs Bernice that her collection is now an exhibit at the University Museum. Captain John asks Bernice to look for Dark Gallifrey with him. Bernice apologises. Bernice explains her current feelings on Captain John to the War Master. The War Master notices the difference in Bernice's emotions. The War Master attempts to hypnotise Bernice. The War Master wants Bernice to reveal Dark Gallifrey's location. Bernice fights with herself. Captain John rescues Bernice. The War Master yells at Captain John. Captain John checks in with Bernice. Bernice learns that the Provost is actually the War Master. Bernice gives Captain John and the War Master some instructions. The War Master points out that Bernice locked the door upon her exit. Captain John mentions Darren Brown. Captain John makes an animal noise. The War Master calls Captain John childish. Captain John and the War Master look for Bernice. Captain John gives the War Master a reality check. Bernice seems to have tricked the War Master and Captain John. Captain John asks Bernice to let him join her. Captain John is accompanied by the War Master. Bernice activates an emergency protocol named after Sir David Attenborough. Bernice asks someone to look after her cats. Captain John discovers Bernice's location. Captain John calls out for Bernice. The War Master is on the same flight as Bernice's. The War Master compliments Bernice. Bernice believes that Dark Gallifrey should be left alone. Bernice reminds the War Master what she is capable of. The War Master doesn't like sulking. Bernice explains why she feels betrayed by the War Master. Bernice mentions hope. The War Master mentions sabotage. Captain John reunites with Bernice and the War Master. Bernice gets annoyed at the War Master and Captain John. Captain John believes Bernice should blame herself. Captain John mentions the War Master being a Time Lord. Bernice questions Captain John and the War Master's intentions with Dark Gallifrey. Bernice pilots a plane. Captain John mentions Star Trek. The War Master mentions Artron seepage. The Guardians of Continuity plan on killing Bernice, Captain John and the War Master. Captain John gains control of the plane. Captain John reveals he had fun. The War Master wonders if he is regenerating. Bernice reveals that she, the War Master and Captain John have landed on Dark Gallifrey. The War Master questions Bernice. Captain John believes the War Master is crazy. Bernice mentions the Doctor. Captain John warns Bernice. Bernice reminds Captain John of who he was towards her. The War Master, Bernice and Captain John explore Dark Gallifrey. The War Master mentions Morbius. The War Master thanks Bernice. The War Master attempts to kill Bernice. Captain John begs for the War Master to spare Bernice. The War Master and Captain John devise a compromise which allows Bernice to remain alive. The Talking TARDIS returns. Bernice corrects the Talking TARDIS. Bernice lists the differences between her two visits to Dark Gallifrey. Captain John feels unwell. Captain John reminds the War Master of all of Bernice's warnings. The War Master admits to being mad. Bernice explains her hatred towards Gallifrey. The Abomination returns. Bernice, Captain John, the War Master notice the walls moving. Captain John begs for Bernice's help. The War Master promises to kill Bernice. David Warner's Doctor rescues Bernice. The Doctor congratulates himself for being able to save Bernice. The Doctor and Bernice filling each other about their lives since they last met. The War Master recognised the Doctor. The War Master theorises that Bernice may have led him and Captain John into a trap. The Abomination introduces itself to Captain John, and the War Master is that as my recap of Dark Gallifrey, the War Master Part 2. On to tomorrow's episode now, where I will be recapping The Graham Norton Show Season 32, Episode 13. I've not got any trailer, so I can't show you any of that, but that's what will be coming up in tomorrow's episode. But back to today's episode now. Let me know what you thought of Dark Gallifrey, The War Master Part 2 if you listened to it, my recap if you didn't. And you can put both of those in the comments below, as well with anything else you want me to come on the channel, such as any previews or recaps. Put those in the comments below as well. Remember, you can also like, comment and subscribe, and that's it for this episode of the Everything Podcast. Goodbye. And I will see you, there's a bit of a pause there, because I'd forgotten to do it. And I will see you tomorrow for my recap of The Graham Norton Show, Season 32, Episode 13. Goodbye.